me just start the timer here. So we're going to be talking about failures. And I'm not talking about, the general run-of-the-mill failures. I'm talking about specifically when you're trying to image total solar eclipses. Again, this is more of an intermediate talk, and the permutations of failure are immense. So I'm only going to talk about the ones that either I have done, or I have friends that are in the astronomy club or other places have done. And some of those you may think should be obvious. But in the heat of battle, of taking images, sometimes it's not so obvious. So things can and go wrong. So here's an example. Here we are. Okay, it's beautifully clear sky. There's not a couple of clouds, but it's clear. It's beautiful. We check the satellite pictures. There's not a cloud for the entire North American landscape. You set up your equipment. Okay, we're coming up to the contact, just before a diamond ring. You have your automation set up on your computer. You hit the enter button. Click, click, click. Uh-oh. That should be clicking away. I don't hear anything. And of course, the time is going by real fast, and I'm trying to fix this. Like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? I got to fix this. It's going by. Uh-oh. It's diamond ring. It's over. Okay, what went wrong? So anyway, I will not talk about the weather unless it affects equipment, logistics, travel problems, or partner issues. But we will cause what causes failures: lost items, wrong equipment, or doesn't fit. You forgot something, not practicing, not running through the sequences, or no power. All the things that we've normally, in our daily lives, have seen. So let's actually talk about the bare bones stuff. Tripods. The lowly tripod does a great job. So these things have what they call quarter-inch to 20 threads per inch. That's how they call it. We normally abbreviate as quarter 20. This is my first tripod, the actual first serious tripod that I ever owned. It had a quarter 20, and it was just a plate. You just screwed your camera into it and used it. Today we've got these new quarter 20 quick disconnect plates. They're very nice, and you can attach them to your camera. You can take the camera off the tripod. There's just one problem. Sometimes, where is my plate? You better hope it's on the camera. If it's not, problems. Equatorial mounts. I just want to talk about equatorial mounts. We're moving up in the chain here. So here's my, German equatorial mount with 2 telescopes on it. That's a serious piece of equipment. But, when I started doing eclipse photography, I had this little Takashi Sky Patrol. This is what I call my international eclipse chasing gear. It was small, it was light, it was portable, it tracked fairly well. Put a 400 millimeter lens on it, it was good to go. And I did everything without an automation. Just got a shutter control on it, just pushed the button and took photos. Today I'm using more of the Ioptron Sky Tractor or the Sky Tracker Pro. And what's nice is this one just has sidereal. This one has sidereal, solar, lunar rates. So you can actually adjust it for what you are imaging. And most of these have 3/8 by 16 bolt patterns on the bottom. So you can use a quick disconnect plate for these. Well, if you don't have one, you can always use a quarter 20 to 3/8 16 thread adapter. There's one problem with these things, though. They weld themselves. You can't get it off by just unscrewing it. So I tried to get it off by pliers. It wasn't coming off. So I had to use something heavier, a channel lock. I really buggered up the threads, but I got it off. But when you're setting up for an eclipse, you're not thinking clearly. And time is running out. You're trying to do things quickly. And so even this little thing, which took about 15 minutes to resolve, is 50 minutes lost time. Cameras. I typically use a digital SLR. This is my old Canon T1i. I've now migrated to mirrorless camera, the Canon RA. So I like them because they're compact, relatively lightweight, can be used with a lens or a telescope, and it can be automated with a computer. One problem, though, that their menus, they're very deep, and they got a lot of menus. So I'm just going to give you, read the manual. You always want to read the manual. I know it's very boring, but, it has useful information in there. So there's my general camera checklist. Manual mode, shutter speed bulb, ISO 200 to 400. Now, remember, you will vary with your particular camera. So these are just my Canon general settings. Oops, sorry. So it's mirror lockup, auto. Turn off the flash. Turn off your auto power. You don't want the thing shutting down in the middle of your exposures. And, talk about. And I've also been working with panning motion control with my Android camera. Lenses. So there are all kinds of lenses you can use, depending on how large or how small, wide field, narrow field, for your particular, how you want to take the picture. So you're starting to take some test shots, nice and sharp. Oh, it's kind of blurry. It's hard to see with these, but this one's a little bit blurry. It was just sharp a second ago. Well, did you leave your autofocus switch on? You don't want to do that, because here's the problem. You can get clouds up there, and the autofocus will detect the clouds, not the moon, not the sun and the moon. Or maybe a bird flies by. It took that instead. Or somebody just looked in their nose and they said, "Hey, what kind of lens do you have?" Go away. So what do? Is you set it to manual focus, and you turn off the stabilizer. So interesting about the stabilizers. If you don't, it will. If it's on a tripod or a camera mount, it will not know what to do, because it's waiting for motion. It's saying, "Oh, somebody should be moving." Now, if you put it on a tripod, it's still, and it doesn't know what to do, so it kind of shakes. Another thing, lens creep. Some of these lenses will creep, and here's an animated GIF about a creeping lens, and that's mine. It's facing straight up. I just let it go, and down it came. Change the focus. So I tape mine, or I use rubber bands. Now, there are a million ways you can attach it, but these are two of the things that work for me. And you can see here, rubber bands and tape. Focusing. It's sunny. I got plenty of time to focus. So, partial eclipse last year. 1 hour later, it was cloudy. You couldn't see a thing. You couldn't even focus. Other people that said, I'll wait, I'll come out there in a few minutes, during mid-partial, they missed out because they couldn't see it. Mine was already pre-focused previously. So focus as soon as you can. Don't wait. And lock down your focus ring. Tape, rubber bands. And just before totality, recheck your focus, because things could shift. You could bump into it, the tape melts, whatever. Let's talk about another thing, the infinity symbol on your lens. Some lenses, some don't, but some lenses do have the infinity mark. It's not infinity. So you think, just turn it right to infinity. No. So see where this is currently. Here's the actual infinity mark. I actually put a piece of tape, and I put a little pencil, a very tiny little pencil mark, so it will know where generally the focus is. I will still do a check, and I will magnify the image, but it's a good starting point. I don't have to sit there and fish. And you see that's quite a range of motion to turn that knob. Telescopes. So, person in our club decided, his old focuser was, very old. He wanted to put a new super duper focuser on. So he put this nice new focuser on. He didn't test it before he went out to the eclipse. So his focus point wasn't exactly right. And so this is what you should bring. You can never have too many extension tubes or adapters with you. Batteries. We all have batteries. Our phones have batteries. Our computers have batteries. And oops, I thought I charged it. This happens all the time. Bring spares. And also remember to bring them. Also remember those plates, very handy, but they also block the battery compartment on some cameras. So just be cognizant of that. So if you do have to change a battery sometime, you better have a screwdriver, and in this case, for this adapter, you better have a screwdriver available or you're not going to be able to get that plate off. And don't forget the charger. And so here's something interesting about this photo. You think, oh, those two batteries, they're the same. No, they're not. The one that's sitting in there is for T1i. And the one on the bottom is a T4i. Never the twain shall meet. They're different sizes. They won't sit in the same charger. Label everything. I put it in Sharpie, I mark everything to say, in this case, if you can't mark it like a black charger, I'd put a label on, just stuck a label and printed out a label and stuck it on. So I know this is a T1 charger, this is a T1 battery, this is a T4 battery, because they're not the same. So, eye tracker, again, batteries, bring spares. And also keep them separate, because batteries today, they leak. So always bring spares. And your mileage will vary. Different systems will have different batteries. So let me tell you a story. This is actually for me. So I used to use these big power tanks, liquid, what do you call it? They're lead acid batteries. And one day I threw it, you see the power tank, they've got all kinds of options. They've got lights, they have UPS charger, they've got a compressor on there, a million things. Well, one day I took the battery and I threw it in the back of my truck. And I drove 2 hours to come here. Well, the problem was the switch got hit for the compressor. And of course, I'm driving along and it's noisy. I had the windows open. It was a nice day. The air's blowing in. I can't hear the charger chugging away. 2 hours later, I got here. Battery was dead. And of course, so one interesting thing about lead acid batteries, when they die, when you drain them too far down for too long, by the time I got home to recharge them, the battery was gone. It was no good. So watch that. So what I did is I got really angry at it. I tore the battery out, and I made my own adapters and plugs, and it's also 1/3 the size. 2 holes. My kingdom for a hex wrench, or a screwdriver, or a wrench set, or pliers. Actually, I was at the Eclipse in Junction, Texas. One person came up, I need a hex wrench. Another person came up, do you have a screwdriver? And I would say, what size? And of course, when you get really frustrated, you want that hammer. So here's the minimum kit you should have. Phillips and a flat-bladed screwdriver, large and small. You want a wrench set, English and metric, a medium pliers or channel locks, and a hex set, again, English and metric, again. You probably don't need to bring this or that, but leave this at home. Don't bring this, please. We have very expensive equipment. We like to keep it, nice. Fuses. Oh, we've blown fuses before. Oh, whether it be glass or the blade fuses. So bring spares, of course. For your size, make sure that you read the fuse and get the size and get the right match and get a few of them. Not just get 2, get 3 or 4. Again, blade fuses, same thing. If you have one of these or one of these, we got to talk. All right, next question. Why did the fuse blow? I don't care. Just give me another, I'll plop another one. Uh-oh. I blew it again. You don't have enough fuses if you have a problem like this. All right. Time to image the eclipse. All right. We've got to set up the equipment. And, of course, your mileage will vary depending on how much equipment you have. You want to get there to your location, set up quickly, get everything assembled, because you want to check it, test it, make sure it's tight, make sure you didn't lose any nuts, bolts, washers. Oh, where's that quick disconnect plate? Looked everywhere, it's lost. You had it, it was there, but it's in the third case that I brought, and I forgot that I had put it in there. It dropped it in. I'll remember. I didn't. Attach the solar filters. Turn on the camera. Uh-oh. Where's that card? Why did I take it out? Oh no, it's sitting back at home on the kitchen table because I was offloading all those pictures from my trip that I had taken the previous week, and it's not with my camera anymore. Uh-oh, the card is full. Taking all these nice pictures on my vacation. I forgot to empty the card, so it's filled. So now here I am scrambling to delete all the pictures on the phone. And remember, you can only delete one at a time on a phone. On a computer, you can en masse. You can grab all these photos and delete them. And it's great. You can do it all at once in minutes. This will take, to get rid of 10 photos, will take you probably about 10 seconds. And now you have to do like 50 photos. That's a lot. Could be a half an hour or more. I don't know what this is. In some of these displays, these error messages, we all know them. Windows has these error messages, and it's very cryptic, and you look at it and go, what is that? It obviously wasn't meant for mere mortals. Actually, this is Japanese, and I translated it. It's, help, by falling, I can't get up. And it's an error 86. Another problem. So I'm up there. I can't see the sun because it's washed out. The contrast is gone. Well, when it's nice, you're outside, the sun's out, it's really bright, you can't see anything on your screen or your phone or anything else or your computer screen. Black cloth. By the way, I bought this black cloth over at Walmart. They have this huge ream of black cloth. And by the way, this laptop will have the same results. So this is a market basket tote they use for my grocery shopping. And I just put my laptop inside, and then actually that's my jacket. I have a black jacket that's always in my car. And I can always put it over, and that shields the laptop screen. Okay, take some photos. Big moment has arrived. It's the diamond ring, or a lot of times it's just before. Hit the enter button. Uh-oh. You glance over. Usually with automation, I'm sitting in a chair, the computers are clicking away. I have 2 or 3 computers running. Maybe they're taking a movie, and it's just running away. I will glance over, I'll look at the laptop. Oh, why didn't I see any pictures? Maybe I forgot to do this. Oops. Or, did you forget to remove something? Your filters during a total solar eclipse? So remember, here, solar filters are required from full to partial, all the partial phases and after. But in the middle, during totality, you don't want any obstruction. And I call them obstructions. It could be anything from filters to your lens cap. And I had this one. So what happened about the lens cap, the story is one guy who went out to, it was his first time, he went to Texas, and it was his first eclipse. I keep telling people, for your first eclipse, take a couple of snaps, but don't get serious about it. Watch the eclipse for the first time. You'll understand after you observe the total solar eclipse. You will understand why we eclipse chasers will go around the world to see these eclipses. But he decided, no, I want to take a picture. Well, he told me when he got back, I don't have any totality pictures. Like, why not? They said, you had all your automation, everything's good. Well, I forgot to lift the lens cap on. So hopefully that is a lesson. A lot of times when you make these mistakes, you always remember, because he will never make that mistake again, ever, because he'll know, I will never. I'm sure he will check next time. He'll check that lens cap, make sure it's not there. Yes, somebody else will make it. Well, hopefully people in this audience will not make that mistake. Okay, starting up the laptop. So I was in Marion, Illinois in 2017. Here's the National Weather Service data. Temperature, mid-90s Fahrenheit. Heat index, 105 degrees. We were melting on that field. My computer crashed 2 minutes before the eclipse because it just couldn't handle the heat. So interesting thing, that laptop's here. The laptop I'm presenting on is that laptop. It just doesn't like the heat. But my Dell laptop, this laptop, ran just fine. I was in Junction, Texas. Another problem occurred. So National Weather Service data, approximately 79 degrees Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, so I didn't have to worry about sun beating down on the equipment. It died. Remember I had that first slide where it said, click, 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 silence? That laptop, which, not this one, but another laptop I had, died after 3 pictures. It still will not come up. It is dead. So I don't know what it is yet. I do have a warranty on it, so I will hopefully send it back, and hopefully they can fix it. And maybe they can even recover the 3 photos. Another problem, you get these new pieces of equipment. I didn't listen to my own advice. I tell people, you should have at least 1 year to 6 months testing a new piece of gear. And so I got this new panning motion control system. That's the bottom thing here. And what it does is it rotates, and it's an Android-type device. And what you do is you program your Android, your phone, and I think iPhone will do the same thing with the app. And you program it to do either pan, motion, panoramas, and you can sweep, a certain angle. Well, I forgot something. The checklist is sitting at home on my table where I left it. And so I said, oh, that's okay. I will try to make it work. I'll try to make it work. And because you had to do a certain way, you had to turn on the rotator first and then turn the camera on. Of course, causing it to jiggle a bit. If you do it in the opposite direction, turn the camera on, the camera comes on, no problem. Then you try to do the rotator. The rotator then shuts off the camera. So you had to do it in a certain order, and I had that checklist. And I knew that, I remember that, but I didn't remember all the little parameters, like change this, change that setting, change this setting. And you do that before, so I said, no trouble, I'll just do it, half an hour before and have it set up. Well, I forgot the checklist, so I kept forgetting things. And so here's my advice to everyone. And it used to be 30 seconds, and I've learned, if you can't fix it in 5 seconds, abandon the equipment, leave it alone. Just enjoy the eclipse. Don't worry about taking pictures. Fortunately, I've been to about 5 eclipses, so I have a lot of photos. I like to take photos of all of them, but that's why I'm doing automation today. I'm letting the computer do what it does best, automation. Let it hit the button, and away it goes, and then I'll process the pictures when I get home. So thank you. And any questions? Questions? In front.
One of the ideas might be if you go with a group, and you're together, let's say, give each person an assignment. For example, not just the eclipse, you may want a wide angle to see the shadow or the chromospheral light or whatever. You can't do it all yourself.
Right.
And one of the things you brought up a good point about sitting back and watch, especially if you've only been to 1 or even 2. There are plenty of professional people who can take great pictures. One of the best camera you'll ever own is your brain and your eyes, and you'll remember it for the rest of your life.
Right.
Don't get so locked behind the lens and you watch the entire eclipse that way, because you will lose the total effect.
Right. So one of the comments made was that if you're in a large group, try to section it off to different people doing different things. Like some person does the chromosphere, another does the totality, another person does landscape, the entire area around. And also he made a mention of don't fixate yourself on the lens, on taking pictures. Enjoy the eclipse. He said the best camera is your eyes and your brain. Question? Hey, I know who you are. You are the lens cap guy. Guess what? I did the same problem. I did it once myself. So he's not alone. Anyway, yes, Carrie. Okay, I didn't bring the video here, but I did. That's what saved the Junction, Texas. I only saw it, so the camera died and the laptop died. Another was pre-programmed for a different sequence, so that didn't work, because it was just the wrong settings. But I had a video camera that was taking just on a telescope taking the eclipse. And I got 6 seconds of totality using the video in that. And yes, I did get video of that. So I did get video shots of that. And so sometimes, for a short, because of all the clouds, I said, okay, I'm going to drop back to that video camera. So that's what I did. I used the video.
So do your parameters and so forth generate full video as well?
Which one in particular? Are we talking?
I guess, would you need to change anything from video? I mean, obviously you need to select the exposure time.
Right, like, you're right. So you're talking about, does video camera different than the still camera? Yes and no. So some of it, I mean, manual focus is still the same. The video, so basically you have to do experimentation on video. I just kind of shot from the hip because I knew that I couldn't get it. We only had about 6 seconds in Texas where I was. So, but I was able to take, the video. So again, you got to make sure that you lock down the focus. You got to watch the exposures. It can vary because a lot of these autofocus, especially the phones. So I took a video of the landscape, and that landscape, unfortunately, my phone kept auto-adjusting. So instead of getting dark, it just, it kept exposing. Now I can see the lights go on the bridge. You can tell it was getting darker, but it didn't give the same effect. So for the next eclipse, I have to figure out what to do with video. So I'm still learning about video. Back here.
A comment. I've done what you said in this last one. I left all the filters on.
Okay. By the way, he left all the filters on.
For the next 20 years, unless somebody's going to try to go to NO and see the one in Alaska, when you're going overseas, one thing you want to really check is baggage limits, not only to get there, but if there's internal flights. Yeah. And you really need to ask, because when we went to one off of Iceland in Faroe Islands, you couldn't buy an extra bag, you couldn't carry an extra bag, and so, we ended up throwing suitcases away when we were out skiing and buying new suitcases to take on. So you really, I've had them comment about too many cameras, right? I mean, they comment, but even if there's a rule, I've never had anybody say we're taking the camera. But you can't get, like, you got your stuff, I agree with it, but if you can't get it there, so you really want to check up front about what.
Right. So on international flights, especially international flights, there have baggage limits, baggage weights, so you may not be able to take everything. So you saw in the beginning, I had my little Takahashi Sky Patrol. That was my go-to. That was the whole setup. That was it. That's what I traveled with. I didn't take multiple cameras. I took 2 cameras because you always have to have a backup. And actually, I was stopped for the Egypt eclipse. I was stopped by not customs, but the security. They asked me the one question: why do you have 2 cameras? I said, well, I'm going to the eclipse. I need a backup camera in case one dies. Oh, okay, and away it went. But it was 2 cameras, the mount, the little mini mount, and the tripod, and that was it. That's all the eclipse chasing. When I'm going overseas, I worry about baggage limits. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
His statement, which was a good one. If you go with more than one person, maybe your wife, maybe someone who doesn't carry a camera, put something in her luggage as well as your own, so you distribute the material
Right.
to more than one person.
Right. So if you're traveling with more than one person in your group, and the other person is not carrying luggage or lots of camera gear, you can offload it on that person. So you just distribute all your systems so that you're not carrying everything, and they won't stop you. There was a question in front.
Yes, I was in Bulgaria in 1999, and it was one of my best eclipses for visually looking at the sky, and click, manually on my console with what cameras did we use then? 1999.
Konica was one. A lot of Canons had,
It's probably no camera.
Hmm.
And then I felt very, very satisfied. This is my 4th eclipse, best eclipse ever. And then I looked around, I walked over the front, I looked around at my lens. And what do I see? The filters still sitting there.
The filter. So 1999 in Bulgaria, was that? Yeah, Bulgaria. He left his,
Just north of Barn.
right. So he left, again, the cap was on. Or the filter was on. Filter was on. So it still happens.
I still use the same telescope in Arkansas,
Yeah, still using the same equipment.
and I didn't forget to pick up.
Right, yeah. You never forget. Thank you very much. So any other questions? Oh, over here.
Question and comment. I think I know the answer to the question. Any of the 5 eclipses, have they gone, any of them gone off without a hitch?
None of them. There's always been something. It could be minor, it could be major, but something always happens. The minor ones I don't even think about anymore.
As a comment, what happened on that, for me on this one, 2017, I did an audio of instructions, listened to it, that worked. Only thing is, you had to start it exactly the right time, you had one chance.
That's right.
Managed, I almost missed. This time, I did a video using a digital clock, took a video of the clock during the proper time, and then dubbed my instructions over the top of it, put it on the computer, and listened to that. And that gave me multiple chances. If I screwed up and didn't start it quite right, I still had multiple times I could have started it. And then when it just started, I was thinking, I gotta remember to keep the laptop away. Guess what?
Right.
I forgot to touch it. So that wasn't until it was maybe a third of the way into the totality. I'm just waiting and listening, not hearing anything.
Right.
Where's my instructions?
So he's talking about he used at the beginning he had an audio recording to tell him the sequence they had to go through. Then he's changed over to video. Well, unfortunately, there's a thing called power saver on computers, and if you don't keep wiggling the mouse or the tablet, it will go off, and you don't hear anything. So like, why don't I hear anything?
Yeah, and I forget. Of course, it wasn't until after it went off. Oh yeah, I should have shut that feature off.
Again, there are too many. You saw that menu for the Canon, the camera. There are a bazillion menus, and so you got basically, that's why you have to do 6 months, at least 6 months ahead of time, going through the sequences, figuring out all the set, and write it down. Because I can't, listen, I don't remember everything. I think I'm missing half the things that I'm used to do. Yes?
The other end of the spectrum, even with a very simple setup, it can screw things up. As I did in '91, I had a Canon A1, which at the time was like the state-of-the-art computerized. Still, it was just aperture priority, shutter priority, manual. So I took my first 8 shots, I bracketed 2 seconds, turn the shutter, 1 second, turn the shutter, half second, blah, blah, blah. It was only halfway through I realized that I had it set on shutter priority. So as I was changing the shutter, of course, the aperture was changing. The first 8 shots were identical. So luckily it was a 6.5 minute totality, and I was able to get the 8 shots off.
Right. So what was that setting that it was accidentally on?
That was on shutter priority.
Okay, so he had it on. He had a camera that one of the first, the AE cameras, the A1 camera, and of course it has very limited settings, manual, aperture priority, but it also had this one mode, and every time you change the shutter, it was also changing the aperture simultaneously. So you got to watch out. So again, test before you go, and understand your equipment. You should know your equipment well. So over here.
Do you think it's worth all the added risk of having all the computers and stuff rather than just simplifying? Just take, for example, that first setup that you had was very simple. Do you think it's worth the risk of bringing all these things? There's so many more points of failure.
It is, but there's more points of failure by having all of this equipment that I'm running it simultaneously. But what's nice is I want to be able to just sit down, watch the eclipse, maybe look at the eclipse with a telescope or binoculars. If something fails, I'm very calm about it. If it fails, it fails. Fine. I didn't get that photo, but I saw it. And I think that's more important. I saw it, my brain saw it. I think that's more important than having the pictures. I love to get the pictures. I'm a photographer. I'm an astrophotographer. I love taking pictures. So I'm going to have all this complex equipment. But I'm letting it do the work. You know, the computers, you know, let the computer do what it's meant to do, which is do complicated things. Yes?
Yes, Al, I was curious, do you use backyard EOS?
I do. I use Backyard EOS. I also use Images Plus, which they don't, Mike Unsold does not support that program anymore, but he still lets it go for free. And I actually bought his, and there are sequences in both programs you can put in sequences, and they're actually text files. And you can actually quickly type in the parameters to make, yeah, one more, yeah?
Yeah, I was just curious about how you kind of, if you're able to capture the time and range.
Okay, what I do, so here's my general sequence. I go from 1,000th of a second, I take a lot of pictures. You know, I time it according to when I think the diamond ring, just before the diamond ring, or the Bailey's beads and diamond rings start. And I hit the button. So it does thousandth of a thousand, thousandths of a second, and then it goes 1/500th, 1/250th. So basically 2/3 of a stop. And I go from 1,000th of a second all the way down to 4 seconds, and then back again. I just run the sequence as many times as the eclipse will hold for that particular eclipse. The longest one I had automation on was it 27? No, it was, I forget which eclipse it was, sorry. But it was, I think, 4 minutes long. So I was able to go through a number of times back and forth. And so what I do is I just stack all those pictures up to get this high dynamic range image. But yes, that's what I do. I just let it run through the sequence, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm also loading it onto the computer because I don't want to fill the card up or the buffers up. I just said, yes, it's a little bit slower, but it's more guaranteed I'll get the photo. It snaps a picture, dumps it to the computer, gets ready for the next picture, takes a picture, dumps it to the computer. So it's going as fast as possible without overflowing the buffer, the memory buffer in the camera. So be careful of that because, yeah, you can take a lot of pictures really fast, but then it overflows the buffer and stops. And you can't take any more pictures. It's got to wait until the memory buffer clears, and now you can take a lot of pictures again. But until that happens, no pictures. So watch that. Sometimes slow is better than fast. Mary.
The key to most imaging is always the weakest link. And you won't know what that weakest link is until you test. So whenever I go to Eclipse, I start testing 4 months before. I do a whole bunch of bench tests in a house with different lighting conditions. Then I do at least 10 outdoor tests on the sun or moon. And if you don't do that, you're not going to discover a hidden weak link that you're going to discover in the middle of the
All right, so Mary's talking about the hidden weak link. And that's why he suggests 4 months. I say 6, but you want to go inside, do a bench test, test your equipment out, then take it outside and do the testing again. And you got to really try this. And don't get too fancy with it. And make sure that it's stable. I prefer stable versus, wonderful new software. So stability is better.
If you got new software, test the hell out of it.
Yeah. New software, test the hell out of it. Really test it because you don't know what that hidden thing is. And so once you get a nice pattern, a nice sequence, that's it. Lock it down. Gary.
A good friend of mine told me that he photographs the full moon as a good situation for totality. And so I'm wondering, is that a
Absolutely. So he said a friend of his will image the full moon. It is a very good, depending on your lens, but it's a very good way to practice. Even exposures, you can practice exposures. I think it's a 400 millimeter f8 system the full moon is equivalent. It's not perfect, but it gives you a rough idea for just testing. Again, test. You'll find out when you start testing, you'll find the best exposure. And test on the sun. Go out when it's nice and sunny and actually put your filter on and start testing. Oh, by the way, Mylar filters versus glass filters are better because it's very thin. Yeah, it's a little more flimsy. You got to be careful you don't put your thumb on the filter and cause a thumbprint. But the Mylars tend to be like the Botter solar film is probably the best filter out there right now. And you can make your own. I buy it in sheets. I buy it in sheets, and I cut it out myself, and I actually replace some of my filters that are old. But you do always check your filters before you go on a trip. Put a bright light, laser, put it behind, and just kind of look for any pinholes. A couple of little pinholes aren't a problem because you can take a Sharpie and mark it out. But if it's really torn or if there's a gap, you should definitely change them.
You should just mention if you use a glass filter, it could change the filter.
Yeah, so glass filter. So it can change the focus. So interesting, I've been doing a little research on that. Say glass filters, they say, will change the focus. That's no much, it will change it slightly. The biggest problem is if the glass filter is not perfectly flat, if it has a wedge to it. And now you're going to get really interesting optical strangeness, focusing, colors, reflections, even the filter, if you have a screw-on filter, take it off. Don't, like the UV filters to protect your lens, take it off. Because that's an additional layer, that's an additional piece of glass that's going to cause refraction in the system. So it could cause a reflection internally. It maybe light will come in, go through the filter, bounce off the front surface of your lens, bounce back into the filter, and cause these little reflections all over. And it may be very dim, and it may be not objectionable, but it could cause problems. Some people have talked about where I can't get rid of, no matter what I do, I can't get rid of these reflections that are in the system. And it could be so simple as you got either the filter is not, if the glass filter is not flat, it has a wedge to it, or reflections off a filter that is used to protect your lens. It's causing a reflection.
All this thing for an eclipse is so critical. If you really want to get the prominences and anything else, that I strongly recommend minor filters so you don't have to worry about focus. Once you focus it once, lock it down, put tape on it like you said. But the glass filters is just you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, and there are very few. So I was looking this up. So Marius says, use the Mylar filters. Because then you focus it once, lock it down, and you're good to go from the partial phase right through totality. Also, another thing, to get a really flat, now I have a glass filter, but I haven't used it too much. I use it because it imparts a different color to my images. But what's interesting about this glass filter, this glass filter I have is from Questar.
Use the solar imaging, not for eclipses.
Right, not for eclipses, but for regular solar imaging, they're fine. But this was Questar. The surfaces are flat. They are truly flat because it was pull off the line and then they coated it with Inconel. So, but not every filter is like that. If a cheap filter less than $100 will not have this. Yes, question.
We're up in Maine, walking through 6 inches of snow. And one piece of advice, do not blindly follow the gap. Because take the filter off, and it's already went dark. So somehow it was off. So I missed the 90 when you're coming in. Don't ask me how. It was supposed to be GPS oriented, and it was off.
Right. So he said, don't blindly follow the app. Again, like Mary says, test, and test some more. And if you think you got it right, test it another time. You got to keep testing it. Unfortunately, some of these apps only work on eclipse day. I kind of don't like that because there's no way to really test it. Very.
Also, the current figure that a lot of these apps use for the diameter of the sun is 100 years old.
Oh, okay. So some of these apps are using data that's 100 years old on their app. So be careful. Okay, any other questions? Oh, way in the back.
If you're worried about your batteries, I've switched to dummy batteries as well from USB power packs.
Okay, so he's used, so worried about batteries, use a USB power pack to run it off.
We'll take 2 things to try this. First of all, some of them don't work.
Oh, some don't work.
Well, they just don't give your battery your camera enough power. But even the ones that I do work on Canon, I often have to turn the camera off and on twice. So once it's on, I haven't had one out, and you got a 12,000 watt-hour battery pack in next to the thing. It'll take all the pictures you're ever going to take in that time frame.
Yeah, just remember, eclipses, the maximum eclipse is just about 6.5 minutes. Just remember that. You only have to have the thing working for about 15 minutes. Remember that. So, yeah, you can have this big power pack. It's more stuff to lug around. So that is that. But yes, you'll be able to run it for days. No problem. Just there's caveats. What is your level of security? How much do you want to use? Do you want lots of power and you never have to worry about it, or little power, you have to worry about a little bit, but you're not carrying so much? Again, it's a personal preference. Okay. Oh.
I'm assuming that there's going to be more than just me showing the eclipse shots tonight. But just in case, I'm showing some my eclipse stuff.
Okay, so tonight, he's going to be showing some eclipse stuff, some images. This is at the talks, the amateur talks, right? So tonight, I'm sure there are a few. I won't be showing any this evening, but I'm sure other people will be showing.
I've got shadow coming in and leaving with the eclipse sun in the background.
So he's got shadow coming in and out, so that'll be cool. Anything else? Yeah, any other questions? Oh, okay.
I didn't understand why the exposure needs to change as the eclipse progresses. Because the exposure of the sun should always be the same. So shouldn't you just have
Okay, so why do you keep the exposure changing?
very sensitive when it's
No, it's not about that. It's about the outer. So when you're taking pictures, you want to start to get the Bailey's beads, which are very short exposure. Then you want to get the inner corona. Then you want to get polar brushes, top and bottom, north and south. Then you got the inner corona area of gas. Then you want to get the outer corona. And then you want to get earth shine of the moon. So it's different exposures. One exposure will not get all of that. It will be not as good. Yeah, it'll be in the picture, but try to process that with one exposure. You can't do it. That's why it's called high dynamic range imaging. So you have all these different exposures to expose the different portions of the inner and outer corona that you see during an eclipse.
Okay, so the dynamic range of the bright sun to the very dim little extremities of the...
That's right. So the thing is, remember, the bright sun is covered by the moon. So it's not bright anymore. So now you start to get the outer stuff. And you want to so there's so much up there. Our eyes see a lot more than a picture. Our eyes have a huge dynamic range. Cameras don't have that. So what you do is, if you want to get an equivalent picture, remember, these photos that I have, even though you can't see it very well because of the daylight, it's an equivalent of what our eyes see, which is why I tell people, make sure you observe the eclipse. Even so my first successful eclipse was Egypt, 6.5 minutes. And in that eclipse, 3 minutes, so I used a recorder. I had a little tape recorder back in those days, and they didn't have USB, it was a tape recorder. And so I had it timed, so when you start, I had to be timed just right. So 2 minutes before, I would turn on the tape recorder and would tell me what to do. Okay, Bailey's bead's coming up. Oh, diamond ring's coming up. And then it would, give me a countdown. And at about just before 3 minutes, I heard someone yelling in my ear, "Stop taking pictures, move away from the camera, look at the eclipse, And so 3 minutes in, I stopped because I was doing this manually. I pushed away and looked up at the sky and watched the eclipse.
The human eye has a 1 to 1 million.
1 to 1 million to your eye.
Like an analog system, whereas the best camera, most expensive cameras you can get, about 1 to 30,000.
Yeah. So cameras have 1 to 30,000.
The best camera.
The best cameras. Our eyes have 1 to 1 million. Yeah.
No, it's just the way the retina works.
Just the way the retina works. That's how it works.
We have a pretty good eye system. The only thing that beat us is eagles.
The eagles are the only thing that beats our eyes.
I tried to take a picture. We took a picture of looking out for inside and outside. The inside's going to be a little on the bright or dark might be. If you're close to the inside, the outside's going to be bright. If you're close to the outside, the inside's going to be too dark.
Yeah, you can experiment with this. You take a picture, like even in here, take a picture in here. Take a picture of a person sitting next to the wall here with the bright. He'll be exposed properly, but everything outside is completely white. Or he exposed for the outside, but now the person in here is black.
Or neither will
Or neither. All right, so how are we doing on time? Time? Okay, so one more question, and then we'll have to wrap this up.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, one of the great enigmas, eclipses are shadow bands. Sometimes they seem to appear, sometimes they don't, sometimes they look like jail bars, sometimes they're sort of faint. And also to photograph, you kind of have to look away from the eclipse.
Right. Well, fortunately, it happens before the totality.
Have taken a picture, and if so, have they been strictly videos or have?
No, I've taken more stills, but the last one, because of the time problem, because of the cloud problem, I decided to go to video. And with modern cameras, you can just flip the switch, and I'm in video mode. And I just hit the button and let it go. But he talked about shadow bands, and that happens just before, I think, just before totality. So use a white sheet, put it down on the ground, videotape it. And in 2017, in Marion, Illinois, we looked over to the adjacent building. There was this huge, like building, industrial building. And on the side, we saw shadow bands on the side of the building. I have a video, but I didn't, at the time, did not have the software to be able to process. I've just gotten that software, so hopefully I could. Yeah, according to Mario, that Marion, Illinois was the best shadow bands, and it was on the side of a building. Yeah, it was active. Somebody just yelled, "Shadow bands on the building." And we all looked like, wow. So anyway, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed my talk.